Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Entitled Parents. Story 1. Stepmom is getting on my last nerve, ranty. I'm going to keep this as short as possible, but my stepmother is getting on my last nerve. Anytime I try to open up, I just get smashed with rude. Story 2. Entitled Parents tell me to F off in my own yard. Enjoy your free shower. Long time lurker, first time poster. Please forgive any formatting mistakes, since I am on mobile. A few years ago, I lived in a house that was a block away from a public park. It was a very large park, and I noticed 2 soccer games occurring when I left one Saturday to go to the grocery store. When I returned home about 45 minutes later, I noticed there was a truck parked beside my property. The occupants of that truck were on my property. There was 2 children dressed in soccer uniforms, their mom and dad, and a large Doberman. The Doberman was lying on a picnic blanket, the parents were setting up their family's picnic lunch, and the children were chasing each other, all on my front lawn. I couldn't believe my eyes. I pulled my car into my driveway, and walked over to the family asking them why were they on my property. The entitled mother then snarked at me, "What does it look like? We are eating lunch." I asked why are they not eating in the public park that is a block away, and she responded it's more peaceful here. In complete shock I then said, "This is private property, and you all need to leave now." The mother's response was go F% number yourself you little b and $number. I was furious. I pay the mortgage, I do all the lawn work, and you think it's okay to trespass and tell me where to go on my own property? So this was the easiest revenge ever. I walked right beside them to the outside tap that was attached to my sprinkler system, and turned it on. The family started screaming, and grabbed all their stuff as they ran to their truck. The mother and father screamed obscenities the whole time, and said that they were going to get me. Well, this is where revenge number 2 came in. I downloaded my security camera footage which showed their license plate, and brought it to my next door neighbor who just happened to be a police officer who working that day. The parents were charged with trespassing, and I had a smile on my face for the rest of the day. Story 3. Neighbor's child joins gathering and he's not invited. Backstory: there's a child in my apartment complex who's allowed to run wild. Is extremely disrespectful to adults. Recently ruined my mommy and me event taking my autistic son to get ice cream because he wanted the $10 ice cream and decided to pout until his mother offered to pay for what he wanted. He rides his bike aggressively towards my children who are 2, 5, and 10. Literally having to brake so he doesn't hit my child, and worse, my kids always fall off their bikes due to this behavior. The mom doesn't reprimand said child and believes no one should say anything to said child. Whenever my adult friend and I are outside hanging out, here comes said kid. I've spoken to the parent about him not being in adults' faces etc, and he continues. I literally have to shut my window to have a conversation with my children because he sits outside listening by my window. Instead of being upstairs on the deck his mommy pays for. Today, it's Memorial Day, my family and I are grilling and hanging out, and here he comes to participate in my gathering. Asking for food, involving himself with guest etc. Am I the offer telling him to go upstairs with his own family? Story 4. Starting to regret moving to this neighborhood. So this is my wife's story. My wife has been a stay-at-home mom since the birth of my son 5.5 years ago. Recently she has been feeling a bit off, as she wants to be contributing to our income, but hasn't been able to make anything work with caring for the kids during the day. Our neighborhood has a community pool, and while she was teaching our son to swim about a month ago, one of her friends mentioned that with all the kids in our neighborhood, she could probably offer lessons and get quite a few people to sign up. She worked as a lifeguard in high school, and had given lessons to children for a couple of years and knew she could do it. She made a post on the community Facebook page and ended up getting about 20 kids signed up for lessons, both group and private, before having the HOA reach out saying that swim lessons cannot happen as they would not be covered by the current insurance. This is a long story in its own right. So my wife reached out to everyone who signed up to let them know that lessons have to be at the very least delayed, but most likely permanently cancelled. In addition, she removed her advertisement, and posted about how lessons were indefinitely suspended until the issues with the HOA are finalized. On Saturday, she took my son to the pool to continue his lesson. Shortly after they started, a mom showed up with her 3-year-old, saw my wife teaching my son, and having seen the original post offering lessons, told her son to join my wife in the pool and get a lesson. So my wife had a little kid walking down the steps towards her, which she thought nothing of until he went to take a step down, which would have put his dead underwater. She stopped him and asked him where his parents were, and he pointed to his mom, who was getting set up on one of the reclined poolside chairs. My wife went up to her with her son, and let her know that he just tried to walk right into the pool all on his own, and asked if she knew her son was going in alone. "Oh, that's fine, he is here for his lesson." This shocked my wife, and she told the mom that all lessons had been cancelled, and that she did not recognize the mom as one of the parents who signed her kid up for lessons. "Oh well, I can just pay you later, I want him signed up now." So again my wife explained that the HOA had made it clear that no lessons could take place, and that we had been threatened with legal action if my wife offered the lessons. "Well, you are only teaching one now," pointing at my son, "so you can help my son too. The HOA won't find out." So my wife explained that she was just teaching our son, and we were not going to risk the HOA coming after us to teach her son. "It's not that big a deal, he can just watch and learn." It became pretty clear that she was not going to take no for an answer, so my wife decided to leave and come back later. As she was leaving, the mom yelled out, "I can't believe you will give lessons to a white boy but not my son." This got quite a few looks, which actually turned out really well for us, as my wife informed the HOA of what happened in case the woman decided to tell the HOA that my wife was moving forward with lessons after being told not to. The woman did reach out, and we gave names of a couple of the other families who were at the pool at the time who corroborated my wife's story. We have now had 2 pretty shitty interactions with community members in the last couple of months. Hopefully this does not become a trend. Story 5. My car damaged. Decides to pocket the dollar. So I was making car payments, paying insurance premiums on a group policy, both in my mother's name. Car title couldn't be transferred until I paid the car off. Said car was damaged. Told me to shop around for the highest estimate to get it repaired. So I did. The other party's insurance finally sent the check for the repair. Told me she had it. Technically she was the owner of the car at the time and the insurance was on her group policy. Mind you, I paid my share every time the insurance needed renewed, and at the time she claimed my rates were the cheapest on the policy. I told I'd have to wait till summer to get the car fixed cause I have children in school and they rely on me for transportation. She assured me she has it and wants to give it to me, but first I need to get insurance in my name and pay off the car. I told her none of that needs to be done before the car gets fixed, but she insisted. So about a year goes by as I made the payments and switched to my own insurance. Afterwards I told her I need the repair dollar to get the car fixed. Claimed she doesn't have it anymore. After all, it's been over a year, which means legally I can't sue. I told her to get the dollar because she's not entitled to it when I made the payments. She blocked my number, threatened to call the police if I show up to her house, and told me I need mental health treatment. How convenient. Basically her relationships with her own child and grandkids weren't worth $1,100. That's all it took to stab us all in the back. Story 6. My student's dad is basically an inanimate object. I have been listening to a lot of posts from this subreddit and I suddenly remembered one that felt worth telling. I, M29, work at a school for kids with learning disabilities, mental/emotional issues, and various other issues that prevent them from succeeding in traditional education. The family that this story focused on had one child who we will call Jimmy, 16M, enrolled at our school about 4 years ago. I had Jimmy in class for middle school science, and he had a variety of issues, some of which were documented like dysgraphia and ADHD. Now as someone who has ADHD and specializes with working with kids to overcome these obstacles, our classes are one-on-one so we have a deeper connection. I began to pick up on when Jimmy was actually struggling and when he was just relying on his diagnoses to get himself off the hook. Any time that Jimmy had an issue at school, his favorite solution was to call his mother, who would phone the school to yell at our administrators for how we had upset her son. This was an obvious red flag for me, but I trusted my school administrators to protect me from this insane mom. This particular story happened during a lunch period on a Tuesday, the day that I run Dungeons and Dragons Club. Jimmy was always an avid member of D&D Club despite never fully understanding the spirit of the club. He has what is sometimes known as main character syndrome. He just wants to be the best with no effort, do nothing to earn strength but show off anyway. This kid wants the cheat codes for life. Jimmy is always frustrating to play with, wanting to be stronger than everyone else and needing the story to focus on him to even remotely keep his attention, but on this day I hit my limit. Jimmy's father was on campus this day for some reason. Our school atmosphere is far different than a normal high school, so I just sort of accepted his presence when Jimmy brought him to D&D Club. I felt a bit awkward doing voices in front of my students' parents, but I kicked off the D&D session, speaking as various Egyptian gods. I'm a huge nerd and I like basing things on mythology. What really finally broke my endlessly patient nature was a minor spill. At this point in time I allowed students to eat while we played as our club took place during their lunch period, but this policy was quickly amended after this event. Jimmy's father sat in the corner of my office/classroom. For me it's the same thing, all my classes are one-on-one, as my group of adventurers gathered for the next exciting session of their adventure. I won't go into all of the maddening antics Jimmy got into in this club, but during this particular session, before anything truly epic could take place, Jimmy spilled juice all over the table we were playing on. I paused to let Jimmy grab some paper towels to clean up the mess, but instead he seemed confused that the game had been paused. I asked him, "Are you going to clean up this mess first?" To which he responded, "You clean it up. I shit you not." His dad was in the fucking room and said nothing. I realized I had to be dad all of a sudden and said, "Jimmy, you are going to go get some paper towels and clean this up or D&D is done for good." He immediately got up and started cleaning, and also apologized to me. As much as this child drove me crazy, it was a reminder to me that the nightmare kids come from nightmare parents. Jimmy was the most entitled kid I think I ever encountered, and he left our school due to his mother's issues, but I could only feel bad for him knowing he would continue to be raised by a mom who would excuse his every flaw and do everything for him, and a father who was basically an unused shovel leaning against the wall. There is something so crazy to me about watching your kid rudely telling their teacher to clean up after them and not reacting. I had to rant. Poor kid. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.